What does it really mean to rebuild your life from the bottom when you have hit rock bottom? And not just rebuild, but turn your pain into a purpose powerful enough to help others heal.
Today, we're sitting down with someone who's doing exactly that every single day. You're listening to Thrive by the Rising Muse, and trust us, this one's going to stay with you.
I'm Natty.
I'm Veda.
And we are here to thrive.
Today, we're diving deep into recovery, resilience, and what it takes to stay grounded while helping others climb out of darkness. Our guest is Lindsey McCutcheon, a certified peer specialist, a wife, a mom, and someone who knows addiction not just as a concept, but as a reality. She's fought through herself. She now works at Tranquility Recovery and Louisville Recovery Center, helping others navigate recovery and maintain sobriety while continuing to protect her own self. This episode is about survival, truth, and courage that it takes to lead with your scars instead of hiding your scars. Welcome to the show, Miss Lindsey.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We're so excited to have you. Can you walk us through what your life was before recovery?
Oh, wow. It wasn't. I didn't have a life. You hear a lot of people say, I want my life back. I didn't want my life back. I wanted a new life. So, sorry, I have allergies. So before I started using at 13, marijuana and alcohol. Eventually, over the years, I graduated to other substances until I ended up on heroin. At the end of the day, my life was across that invisible line of addiction at 23, and I know that because that's the first time I detoxed, and then I started having to have it all the time. And it started for me with pills, prescription pills that I was prescribed. I was prescribed. I went in with back pain, but like it wasn't nothing severe. And I didn't go in pill shopping. I was like, I just want to feel better. I want to be able to play with my 3-year-old, I just stuff like that. And they prescribed me like 100 Vicodin.
Ooh.
And like 2 months later, they put me on OxyContin.
Ooh.
And not long later, I was on Oxy 80s. So I quickly learned that I could sell those. They were a high commodity. I was making ridiculous money off of it. My doctor lost his license, thank God, and I didn't have that anymore. So then I started the chase of whatever else I could get. I got in legal trouble for the first time at 28 or 29 for shoplifting, and I didn't need any of it. It was like when I was in the madness, it was a high, it was a rush.
The thrill of it.
Yes, just to see what I could get away with. It was a bunch of clothes and stupid stuff at Kmart. And so that was the kind of the beginning of it. And then I got arrested, I don't know, 4 times, I guess. Never spent more than a week in jail because my parents always bailed me out. I had like the best lawyer you could get. So it really, my son and I argued all the time. Not all the time because he had a good childhood, and that's not me just having the wool over my eyes. Like he really did for the most part. We did a lot of fun stuff. I was the cool mom, so I was the one that was taking him and his friends to laser tag and out to eat and all these other things. A lot of his friends' moms, they're either being raised by grandparents or their mom was in prison, their mom was in addiction. So, and a lot of that time, like until until my son was 15, he had no idea I was using anything. Like, I kept it from him. How, I don't know, but he truly did not know. Like we've talked about this multiple times. And it got to the point where when I was doing stuff with him, I had to have something. If we went to the movies, I went as soon as there's a local movie theater here and they started serving alcohol. So anytime he wanted to go see a movie, we had to go there. And I would get a drink and then go in the bathroom and, empty my Coke or whatever and pour that in and bring it back and sip it. So it got to the point where I had to have it. After a while, I was no longer chasing a high. I was trying not to get sick. I got in, like I said, trouble. I got a possession felony heroin charge. I didn't even discover heroin until I was 33. And it came from the pill mills and all of that drying up and cut, a lot of like changes with that. And a lot of people got into heart addiction when that happened. So I couldn't find what I wanted anymore. Someone approached me with heroin. I got really mad. It was someone close to me, and I went off on them. And I was like, why are you doing that? We told it, we like would never do that. What do you think? I hung up the phone. Mind you, I'm starting to detox, and heroin again was something like it was so far fetched for me. I was like, there's no way. I would never. I'd quit first. And I'm sitting in my my bedroom floor. I was doing something, and I start rocking back and forth. I remember like it was yesterday. I started rocking back and forth, and it was maybe 30 seconds. And I picked up the phone and called him back. And I was like, okay, one time. We are not doing this again. It's only because we can't find anything. No more. And he was like, yeah, it ain't that bad, dude. It's just going to help your pain. You'll be fine. Cause I was in legitimate pain.
Detoxing, yeah.
Yeah. And so we went and did it. And the first time, when I tell you, someone did it for me, I'll leave it at that, because I didn't know how. And I sat down on their couch, and it was the most euphoric, peaceful feeling I had felt in my whole life. And I sat back, and I remember thinking, oh God, and I walked out of there, and it was such a good experience for me that the next day I wanted it again. Now I'm just going to do it today. The next day I'm going to do it again, but I'm just going to do it today. I'm just going to do it once a day. And very quickly, it came to all day, every day, very quickly. My life went really downhill. My life wasn't together to begin with. And I was always chasing something. And I remember when I was going through all that, as I'm going through the years, as I'm chasing stuff, I hated myself. I might not have presented that way, but I felt trapped. I felt stuck. I felt like, oh, this is just my life. What can I do about it? And I would go through detoxes and tell my family I had the flu, tell my family I was sick, whatever. And it wasn't too long before my mom picked up on that. And she was like, you're not sick, you're detoxing. And she just had she was supportive of me always, but she had this look of disappointment at times. And that was worse than anything. My dad came in at one point after I started using heroin and caught me. And I'll leave it at that. And I convinced him that it was my medication and that it got to me better that way. And back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I don't know if he believed me or if he just had the wool over his eyes and was like, I can't even acknowledge that. And it ended. It was done. Didn't talk about it anymore. And I kept going. And then, so I started using heroin in October of 2013. Yeah, 2013. And so in February, 5 months later, I caught felony charges. So that kind of proceeded. I kept chasing that. I did things that I'm not proud of for the next one. I had morals. I was raised with values. I knew right from wrong. I was raised in the church. I believed in God. My gut was there. I had a gut conscious, and which I know is God. And I slowly started breaking down these I'll nevers. And eventually it was like, might as well do it. I've already done everything else. And I got in trouble a couple of times after 2013. I got put on felony probation for 5 years. And even with the probation hanging over my head, I tested dirty like 2 or 3 times. And I had like 3 years prison hanging over my head. Like while it's going through trial, while I'm trying to get a court date, like my lawyer was like, I don't know if you're going to be able to get out of this. I was a first time offender for real with that. And she was like, that might help you, but the judge is also big on making examples of people because he does not play with addiction. And so I'm scared to death for like a year that I'm going to go to prison. But I kept using. I would go to detox, get out, use again, go to detox, get out, use again. And I remember sitting in a parking lot doing it one day, and I had to see my PO in like a couple of days. And I just told myself, like, it'll work out. Like, I just won't pop dirty, or they're not going to test me. Or I remember rationalizing it so hard in my mind because I had to do it. I had to. I didn't have a choice. So for a very long time, I was a slave to it. Yeah. It ruled me. It controlled me. How I didn't lose my son, I have no idea. Probably because I have family and my parents are really supportive. If I did not have them, I definitely should have lost my son.
Mm-hmm.
So I always say that because I don't want people that did lose their kids to look at me and be like, well, she didn't lose her kids, you know what I mean? But it's only because of the support that I had that I didn't. So fast forward to 2018. So I got sober in 2016, got sober for 10 and a half months, took a pain pill again, very quickly went back to heroin, celebrated my 1 year sobriety in Alcoholics Anonymous high because my pride and ego
Yeah.
would not let me tell on myself. And very shortly after, I was detoxing on my sponsor's couch. The beginning of 2017 until the fall of 2018, I was heavy into it. I stayed close to my support group because I had already been exposed to the fellowship of AA, and I knew I needed that. And I just knew that was important to me, and something like innately told me, like, no matter what you do, stay close to them.
Mm-hmm.
I went into meetings all the time under the influence, and I say this a lot when I'm speaking in meetings and stuff, but never once do I recall anybody in that meeting looking at me sideways or you're not supposed to be here. You need to go to da. And because of that, I feel like I'm alive today.
Mhm.
Because if I had, I know me. If I'd been in a meeting and you all were like, "Oh my God," and I look over, I'm probably not coming back to the meetings.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the fact of the matter. So I always share that of the importance of not judging. If someone comes in,
Mm-hmm.
what do you expect? You're in a meeting. Take them out, get them coffee, get them out of the room for a little bit if they need to, whatever. So my addiction was really bad during that time. 2018, the whole summer, I wanted to kill myself. I would have never done it myself because I didn't want my family, especially my son, to go to my funeral and look at me and wonder why I didn't stay alive for him.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't have to spend the rest of his life making sense of that because he's very dependent on me.
Mm-hmm.
He calls me all the time. He needs me for all kinds of things. And he's 23, but that's just what it is, you know. He still needs me. And so that kept me from doing it myself, but I would imagine it happening out of my control or setting up scenarios where it looked like it was out of my control. So I would go down the highway and be like, what if I let go of my wheel right now? Or I would drive and there's like an embankment and I'm like, I wonder how far that is. And I remember thinking, it has to kill me. I know it's going to get hurt. It has to kill me, whatever happens. And when I look back on that, like the very first thing I do when I wake up in the morning is thank God that I'm alive and that I'm sober. And I start rattling off every single thing I can in my head that I'm grateful for. And that's like a complete 180 from where like I would pray at night that God would not wake me up. And then I would wake up in the morning awake, alive, and be pissed. Like, you know what I have to do today. Why would you do this to me? You're supposed to be merciful and all these things. And you know what I have to go through. So finally in 2018 in October, I hit my knees in my bedroom one Sunday and I cried out to God and I said, I cannot do this. I'm done. I just don't know how to get there and I need help. And I kind of told him, you know, give me the courage to pick up the phone. And I don't even remember picking up the phone. I just all of a sudden was on the phone with my friend Erin and she was like, where are we going? And she took me to detox. I was there for a couple of weeks. I got out of detox and I immediately got with another sponsor. I worked the steps to the best of my ability. I started sponsoring other women. I got into service work as much as I could, went to meetings as much as I could, called my sponsor as much as I could, started getting involved with all the sober events. And I learned that you can have fun in recovery. And it's so important to me. I talk about that all the time with people. Like if it's not fun, not all the time, but if it's completely boring, I'm going to stay high. I'm going to stay drunk.
Right.
So I've just followed suit with that for almost 7 years now. And the things that worked for me in the beginning, I try to stay, I'm not perfect, but I try to stay connected to those today because they work. I feel like that was a very long answer to one.
No, perfect.
Amazing. Amazing journey. Okay. And I remember when my daughter, who's 40 now, she was 10 months old. My husband was in Okinawa in the Marines, and I spent a year by myself. I had friends who did cocaine and crack, but I wasn't into that. And one night we're at my house and just sitting up and they're doing their thing and you know, I'm trying to drink, never even liked the taste of alcohol. Okay. It never appealed to me to this day.
Yeah, she doesn't drink.
I may take a sip of margarita, and then when I do that, I'm like, hair's coming out on my chest.
She gets very dramatic about it.
Yes, okay. But that night, I told my friends, let me try it. They were doing crack over my stove with the heat, something with a spoon and a little bub glass. And they say, are you sure you want to do this? And I'm like, whatever, yeah, why not? And I did it. I never felt so out of control in my life. I'm sitting there looking at things, and these thoughts come into my mind are like crazy. And then I started getting paranoid. So I told my friends, they told me to lay down, and they didn't leave until I went to sleep. Okay? And when I woke up, I couldn't breathe. That next day, I could not breathe. I'm gasping for breath. You know, it's like, what's going on? I get my godmother, go to the hospital. I'm like, I gotta go to the hospital because I have to breathe. Get to the hospital, pull up, and they're like, what's wrong? I said, look, get me breathing, I'll tell you everything. And they gave me breathing treatments and all this. And I remember going to the doctor's office. And he said, what happened to you? And I said, I tried crack for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
He said, have you, ever done it before? No. Last night, first and only. I said, but you got me breathing. I know you hear this from a lot of people, but I promise you, I will never do that again. I was 21. Now I'm going on 62. I could because I had no control over me. My thing is, I've done other things, but I didn't realize that was gonna. Remember when you said that when you did heroin, it was a euphoric feeling? I never had the euphoric feeling. Mm-hmm. It's like I went right out of control, not in control. And it scared me. It scared me to death. So that's one promise that I kept. I told the doctor, you get me breathing, I'll never do this again. And I did.
I never liked any kind of hallucinogens because when I did them, and like a real addict, I did it one time, it sucked and it scared me. I did it another time, it scared me. I did it another time, it scared me. And I was like, this time it'll be better. And it was hell every time. And then I did crack one day, literally for one day, because there was nothing else. And again, true addict. I hit it a couple of times and immediate paranoia, immediate feeling of out of control, immediate just uncomfortable anxiety. And I hit it all day long because it was the only thing. After that, we found something and I was like, never again. I truly don't understand a crack addict. I understand the behavior, but like, how can you endure that? Like, it was awful for me.
Yeah, it scared the heck out of me. It really did. Miss Lindsey, people often think recovery ends when you get sober. What's something that people get totally wrong about what comes after?
So when you just remove your solution, obviously you had a problem and needed a solution. So when you just remove the solution, you still got the problems. It's not about, it's about why can't I function? Why can't I have healthy relationships? Why do I keep getting in trouble? Why is my depression getting worse? Why am I anxious all the time? Why can't I hold a job? All of these things. And just because you quit drinking or drugging, all of that is still effective or active. And so for me, I just learned that very early on that you have to do the work, because if not, let life hit. And stressful hit. And I've literally just taken care of the physical. And recovery is physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. It's all. And they say in AA, if you fail to enlarge your spiritual life, you're sure to drink again. And I fully believe that. So for me, I didn't want to be that person anymore. And I was still that person. All that changed is the physical. I was still that person. And I hated myself in addiction because of all that. And I just told myself, why am I going to get sober to continue to hate myself?
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't even make sense. So I started working on myself because they say it's an inside out job.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people dress themselves up, and I did too, so that everybody thinks I've got it together and nothing's wrong. And literally, and then at the same time, my insides are like awful. You know, they're corroded, they're unspiritual, unhealthy, all of that. And I just had to do the work. And nobody has to do whatever. You know, you can do whatever you want, but if you're just gonna sober up, we kind of call that sobriety.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like dry. And again, but for me, I didn't get sober to still be miserable and to still not have coping skills and to still have unhealthy relationships.
You're a mom and a wife now. Did your recovery change how you show up for your family?
So AA helped me a lot with that because I didn't really realize in the beginning exactly how much I'd put my family through, um, especially my mom and dad. I mean, they were constantly worried. Once they knew I was doing heroin, especially, it was a lot of worry. It had to be. And when you're on drugs all the time, especially opiates, which was my thing, opiates make you angry. They make you short tempered. They make you short fused. They make you anxious. All these things, and just ready to fight. Like I remember thinking, I wish I would. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I wish you would just give me a reason to unleash all this. And I wasn't a fighter. I've never even fought, but I was just
Mm-hmm.
waiting for that interaction. And my relationships were very strained. And I argued all the time with my son, my dad. And I remember thinking after I got sober, like I didn't even want to go home a lot. I would sit in the car and be like, oh my God, I know when I go in here, they're going to get on my nerves. We're going to argue or whatever. And then after I was sober for a little while, stop it. After I was sober for a little while, I started thinking and I was like, it's not chaotic anymore. And the only thing that changed was me. Bobo James, stop it. Stop it. He wants outside, but he's just going to bark and yell at everybody. Um, so in recovery, I learned how to have healthy relationships. I learned how to be faithful and committed and have integrity and respect other people. And it was really cool because I got sober in 2018. I met my husband in 2021. We were friends the whole year. We got together at the end of 2021. He had he had 2 years sober. I had 3 years sober when we started dating, and the whole time, sorry,
It's
you should
fun.
see his face.
That,
The
that's
whole
the four-legged baby.
Yeah, he's
That's
a
the
sweetheart.
four-legged.
I
He
love
wants to
you.
go for a walk.
Yeah, he wants to go on the balcony because he stands up on his throne like a king and yells at everybody. So he worked on himself for 2 years. I worked on myself for 3 years. And in that time, for both of us, we were really working on ourselves. Like we were going
Mm-hmm.
to therapy. Actually, I hadn't started therapy yet, but we were working with a sponsor. We were going to meetings. We were doing the work. So when we came together, it wasn't like you complete me. You know,
Right.
it's like I'm as complete as I can be right now. You're as complete as you can, and we're going to come together. And we have one of the healthiest relationships I know of. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's just amazing. He's incredible. And we just interact better. You know, I'm able to take responsibility when I do something I shouldn't do or say something hurtful and it's not like I intentionally do it. Of course, you can still hurt people when you're
Oh
not.
yeah,
With my son, he can still drive me crazy. I guess that's what sons are supposed to do.
that's their job.
But I used to get really frustrated with him, and I can sometimes still. But he hasn't done this all day. Uh, but with my son, I feel like I've gotten a lot more patient with him. And I did not, I have a lot of parent guilt still.
Mm-hmm.
I forgive myself for damn near everything I've done or been through. But that one's hard.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it's because there's some things that he's not ready for. There's some things that he doesn't know about life yet. And a lot of it is stuff I should have taught him.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't even know it myself. And I was in the madness and I was just trying to keep going. I was just trying
Mm-hmm.
to keep him alive, take him to school, do what he needed to do. And that was literally the best I could do in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of guilt because if I had been a healthy parent, I would have prepared him a lot more for life. So when I talk to him all the time. So the guilt is in my face
Mm-hmm.
a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So that's still hard as far as that relationship. I respect my parents more. I value the time that I have with them more. I've been a lot more adamant about going to my mom. She's about 30 minutes away, which isn't shit, but
Mhm.
she's expressed to me a while back, a couple of years back, that she doesn't feel like she sees me enough and she
Mm.
just wants to spend time with me. And every time I go out there, you could tell it means so much to her. And it means, we climb up in bed, we talk, we watch TV, whatever. So I try to be more mindful. I try to respect my relationships. I try to pour into my relationships. Because if you're not around somebody, you don't invest in somebody, you're not going to get to know them. So you're not going to build a friendship. You're not going to build connection. And I used to really take that for granted. I've got all these friends, but I didn't put no work in. So I've really tried to take my relationships and my friendships seriously and let everybody that I can possibly know or that I can possibly know that they're important to me.
Mhm.
Yeah. Miss Lindsay, what were the hardest parts of staying sober and how did you get through?
The first time around, the hardest part before I relapsed was my anxiety.
Mm.
That's a big trigger for me. Not
Mhm.
anymore, but for a long time, I've been anxious since I was a kid. I remember just being
Me too.
very wound up. And I didn't know why. I didn't know it was a thing. I just thought everybody must feel this way.
Mhm.
I didn't know it was anxiety until I was like 16 or 17.
Mm-hmm.
But that was a big trigger for me. I got out of treatment a couple of times and had detoxed. And I remember in detox saying, I wish somebody would just come here and put me out of my misery. I cannot
Mhm.
do this. And opiate detox will make you feel like you're going to die, but it won't.
Mhm.
So having these really intense detoxes and laying in that bed, praying to God, like, I'll never do this again. If you just get me through this, I swear, like, I'll never do it again. Just get me through detox. And then I remember one time I got home that day and my anxiety was through the roof and I got something like that day. So
Mhm.
anxiety was definitely a big trigger for me. Not that there hasn't been anything hard about this round. I took Vivitrol for my first 11 months of sobriety, and there's no side effects, there's no detox coming off of it. I just thought of it, and I still think of it as an insurance program running quietly in the back while I do the work. So
Mhm.
I took that, and I truly don't remember. And I think it's also because I just knew I was done. Like I made
Mhm.
up my mind, I'm done. No reservations. But I prayed about it a lot. I was on Vivitrol, I was doing the work, and I truly don't remember a time that I've wanted to get high
Mhm.
or I've wanted to drink. I've had times where I want to check out, I'm like, this is too much. I don't want to deal with this. I want to escape. But I've never thought a drink or a drug would be a good idea. There's been
Mhm.
times when I've walked, like opiates were my thing, but I also drank. If it was there, I'm drinking.
Mhm.
And there's been times when I walked into like a gas station and the beer cooler's right there and Bud Light Lime is right there. And I'm like, that would be good briefly. And then
Mhm.
immediately I'm in detox. Like in my head, I'm like straight taking one out of the cooler to detox again.
Mhm.
So I'm able to play my tape through very quick when I need to. Um, but I guess my emotions, not really hard about staying sober, but hard about being sober.
Mhm.
Probably my emotions, because they say the best and worst part of getting sober is you get your emotions and your feelings back.
Right.
So that was probably and still can be the hardest thing. Emotional sobriety is hard.
And you said something very pivotal, and it's like you said you had anxiety. Like you were saying before, um, drugs are an escape. Basically, drugs and alcohol are a way to medicate an issue. Is a way to deal with an issue that when you take the drugs or the alcohol away, the issue's still going to be there. So that makes a lot of sense. At what point in your recovery you decided that it was time to help other people? Okay.
They always say if you have 2 days sober and someone has one, you can offer something.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And I wanted to before the first when the first time I got sober, I volunteered for stuff, but it was more like in the forefront. I wanted to be seen. It was very prideful. And when I got sober this last time, I kind of struggled with that a little bit. And my sponsor was like, "I encourage you." Like she never told me what to do. She was like,
Mm-hmm.
"I encourage you to seek service opportunities that you're not seeing." Like
Mm.
be in the kitchen, do stuff on the background, put stuff together, you know, put kits or packets or whatever together, stuff like that. And I took her suggestion and I worked the kitchen counter but it was more so that you had to have a certain amount of sobriety. And in my home group, which someone works the counter from the home group while it's going on, there wasn't anybody that either wanted to do it, had the time to do it, or had the sobriety to do it. So I stepped up and did that. And I really liked that, doing the counter. The first time I got sober, they gave me the keys to work the counter after a while. And then I relapsed and I went and gave the president of the clubhouse the keys back. And he was like, "You'll get them back." And I remember thinking, like, that's pretty cool. Like, I was like a week after detox that time. And he was like, "You'll get them back. I'll hold them for you." And I was like, damn, that's really cool. But yeah, the service part of it, you can't keep what you have, they say, if you don't give it away. I've always thought about it like, if no one had helped me, I wouldn't be here. So I always think about that, like going into a meeting and sharing is service, anything that helps another person. And, I've heard people, and I've been in meetings before where I'm like, this is an absolute shit show. What am I doing in here? And I was also taught by one of my sponsors that if the meeting is sick, bring the health. So I've been in meetings where it just goes on and on and on about a bunch of nonsense. And then I try to speak up and give something about the solution, something about the big book, something about recovery, my own experience. So just anytime I can, and service isn't just for people in AA. Service is volunteering outside for some random thing. It's taking somebody.
We both do it.
Yeah, it's taking somebody to a meeting. It's holding the door for somebody. It's just sitting and listening to somebody. Like, and a lot of people think when they get sober that you have to do service in the rooms and all that, but it goes way beyond that. Anything that gets me out of myself.
Right.
Well, Naty and I have started community service, and we work at our neighborhood food bank. And I love it. I love it not because I look down on the people there.
Oh, no.
I love it because I remember years ago, I had to go to food bank. And I know the feelings that I had, all these feelings coming inside and afraid that I was going to be judged.
Or somebody would see you.
Or somebody I knew, yeah, exactly, would see me. Now, what I love to do, I'm in the back. She's in the front. I'm the egg lady. And I love it. I love it. People realize I love doing eggs. Because you give them a dozen eggs with their food order if that's what they want. But when the eggs are donated, a lot of them are cracked, crushed. So I have to go through. And the good ones, I have to wipe them off. And then I put them in a dozen. Well, while I'm doing that, I'm praying. Lord, bless the hands that receive these eggs. Bless the home that received these eggs, But she called me up front yesterday. There was a lady there that was anxious. She had just stopped smoking. And she was in and out. How many times? She came in about 4 or 5
times.
Different times. I'm going to get food. No, I'm not. I'm going to get, So she called me and she said, come up front. I came up front. I started talking to the lady and I let her know I was at a food bank years ago. You're not being judged here. We're here because it's in our hearts. And we want to pay it forward. We want to help you. I prayed with her, encouraged her, and also told her that when I stopped smoking, I used to smoke a pack of Virginia Slims a day. Okay? I told her when I stopped smoking, my anxiety was woo. But I started chewing gum. Whenever I got the feeling, I would start chewing gum. So I go to the car, get some gum, give it to her. Now, I know we're talking about drug addiction, but there are so many other addictions. I was addicted to cigarettes. I was definitely addicted to cigarettes. But I'm so glad that I let that go. But it took me a long time. And I had anxiety, but it was from childhood molestation. Never felt good enough. So when I get an opportunity to pour into somebody, you get your quick testimony. Quick testimony. whether it's dealing with trauma, with molestation, or a habit or whatever. My goal, just like you, I see it in you. I want to help someone because I know where I've been and I know what it did to me. Thank God you didn't lose your family. A lot of people do. Thank God your family was there for you. I know they wanted to fix it for you, but they knew that you had to do it yourself.
Yeah, I had a 17-year-old that was in the adolescent program at work kind of recently, and she was supposed to start, and her mom called, and she was like, she's refusing to come, and I was like, can I talk to her? And I hadn't talked to either one of them yet, and she gets on the phone, she's like, hello, and I was like, hey, I said, I just want to kind of talk to you a little bit. I said, you don't have to listen, you don't have to come, I just want to talk to you. And I said a little bit of her story, and I said, well, I'm just going to give you my experience. Take it for what it's worth. And she was 17, and I walked her through the stages of my addiction. I started doing things at 13. I graduated doing things by the time I was 18. I kept on going. I got felony charges. I had prison time over my head. I was on probation. I hated myself, and I just kind of walked her through all of it. And then I talked about sobriety, and I was like, I know you're a lot younger than me, and I know you think that you're supposed to be partying and getting high right now because everybody else seems like they are, but I promise you that's not the truth. People get sober young all the time. And at the end of it, she kind of laughed, and she's like, okay, it doesn't sound that bad. And it was such a good feeling because my goal worked. I just wanted to give her my experience. I was like, at 17, I was hardcore. Getting on heroin yet, but I was doing whatever else I could. And so it was just to kind of talk about giving your experience to people because it can feel hopeless. That's why it's so important for another addict or alcoholic to talk to an addict. Because if I'm just a regular person and I'm like, you can stop using, and I'd be like, how do you know?
Yeah.
Well, and that's how the interaction from yesterday happened because I was actually, my position yesterday was at the front door. And when she came, she told me that she was detoxing from cigarettes and she told me, have you? And I said, I can tell you about anxiety because I've dealt with anxiety most of my life, but I've never smoked. So I can't tell you about that because that's not been my experience, but I knew she had. So that's when I called her and I said, I'm going to let you talk to her because she has that experience. I know I can't relate to that. Like I said, I can talk to you about anxiety every day, all day, but I have never smoked. So I knew my experience was she was not going to connect with it. So that is very, very true. When you have somebody who's walked on those shoes, that's the person who can help you the most.
I know somebody that's cut out caffeine recently. And like when we do a pre-assessment, I'm like, I know this sounds silly, but I need to know like what was the first time you drank caffeine? How many you have a day? And they're like, really? Caffeine? But I know somebody that's come off of it right now and she's having headaches every day. She's not.
You don't want her without caffeine.
Yeah. So even caffeine,
Yes.
of course, addictive, and there's a detox off of that. It's a drug.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Like I said, you don't want her without coffee.
I think I tried to detox from caffeine.
I don't like you.
And you like, here.
I don't like you.
It's okay. Just keep drinking or keep eating chocolate or whatever. Just do it.
Yeah.
Because, it's like I'm on the...
Yeah, the fact that it's legal doesn't mean it's okay.
I know.
Just like alcohol is legal doesn't mean it's okay.
I know. That's why we have to keep stressing that any addiction.
Right.
Okay? Yeah, we're talking about specifically drugs right now, but even with cigarettes and caffeine and
social media, when you're
social media.
Look, if you narrow down the DSM, are we in 5 now? I think it is DSM 5. Yeah, are we on the TR already on the revised version, or we're still on the regular 5? I haven't been in the field for a minute. We're in the 5.
Last time I knew, we were in the 5.
Okay, good. Because, like I said, I haven't been in there for a little bit. But if you if you want to define addiction, they will tell you separate alcohol, nicotine, whatever. But if you want to narrow it down to one definition, it's anything you do that interferes with your normal functionality. If it interrupts your relationships, if it interrupts your work, if it interrupts your health and your sleep, and anything that you do constantly that interrupts with your normal functional work-wise, social, family, whatever, that's an addiction. Some are legal, like I said, some are legal, some are illegal, some cause more troubles than others. Because, like, heroin and fentanyl, people have a higher chance of dying than alcohol, depending at what level you are. Because if you are drinking every day, all day, you're at a higher level. But if you're a binger, maybe you might not have. I mean, you might die, but it's there's 7 levels. If social media, you may die, you might not die, because it depends on what you're watching. But so yeah, some are more. Addiction is addiction. It means you're not free of living your life present.
I talk about that because we have addiction and mental health together in our group. So we're co-occurring in our group. And when I talk about addiction, because you have to address the monkey in the room, elephant in the room. But I also tell them, like, if you're mental health and you don't deal with addiction, what is something that you do that you shouldn't do all the time? Do you sleep too much? Do you eat too much? Are you addicted to toxic relationships?
Yeah, food addiction. There you go.
Do you pick up your phone and scroll, and 2 seconds later pick up your phone and scroll? Are you on your phone so much at night that your relationships are suffering? Your husband across the room, like, okay, your kids are like, mommy, and you're like, yeah, that's great. People don't realize that you have to think outside the box, like you just said, the definition of addiction. It's not just drugs and alcohol, and we have to escape. It's okay to have escapes, but if it's inhibiting the quality of your life,
exactly.
And a lot of people, I mean, you have people that are in cirrhosis with their liver. They'll justify it because alcohol is legal. And then you have people with marijuana problems. Like, some people smoke, others are like gung ho on it. But people in a lot of places right now, and it's like, that's not the point. Like, if heroin was legal, does that mean I should do it?
Right.
Exactly. And there are some people that are so addicted that no matter where they go, they got to do what they do there.
Oh, yeah.
Okay?
I couldn't travel.
They find a way.
Yeah. The thought of me going to, like, Florida or something like that in the madness, there's no way. There's no way I could have done that. I mean, I can plan virtually everything I did in the madness around if I can drink or if I can use.
Right.
I just can't go.
Right. Can you walk us through a day while you're working at Tranquility or at Louisville Recovery? What does it look like?
Yes.
So I wear a couple different hats, always have. But for example, on a Monday, or let's do Wednesday. So Wednesday morning, I don't have to work until Wednesday night. I work at Tranquility. That's the only night I'm there. I do group, I do different things. And so in the morning, again, I should only really be working from like 1 to 9. But I'll be on the phone at 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning doing networking or talking to a client or setting something up or getting somebody in somewhere. So the first part of my day, when I don't have to work in the morning, I'm doing some kind of networking. Maybe I'm doing appointments, I'm meeting people. And then later on in the evening, like I said, I'll do group and stuff like that. So my days are pretty much mixed. I need to be at the center to do a group Monday night. I need to be at the center Tuesday afternoons to do adolescents when we have them. So I work around that. I'm not going to plan a tour and be like, y'all need to do group. So it's just kind of mixed. My days are mixed with calling people, emailing people, visiting people, setting up tours, and then the few responsibilities that I still have at both of the centers. I like doing group. I love doing group. I love being connected to the clients. I love knowing what's going on with them. So I get 2 days a week at LRC to do that and a night at Tranquility to do that.
Okay.
What does it mean to you to be a peer specialist?
Somebody with lived experience that can relate to somebody else trying to get that. I've been there, I've done that. I've been through the fire and I made it out.
And what's the power in that shared experience? How does that make you feel? Or how does it empower you?
It's like an adrenaline rush, especially when I used to work at inpatient and we would have people come in to detox and they would be absolutely miserable. And we had a lot of them. It was usually little bitty skinny girls that thought they were gangster and they're all tough and blah, blah, blah. And those were my favorite because I'm breaking you down. And it was more like joking around with them and be like, girl, sit down. Girl, sit down. You ain't gonna do shit. But the tough cases that come in and it's like, I don't know what's going to happen with this one. And then offering experience and supporting them and letting them know, talking a little bit about your own recovery, building them up and lifting them up. Like, you may not this right now, but if you stay sober, when I tell you the sky's the limit. I mean, we've got multiple felony business owners in recovery. We've got doctors in recovery. We've got people that have went on to get their nurse practitioner, go to law school. Once you get sober, you can do anything. But in the middle of it, when you're in detox or early recovery, you have so much you feel to work on, and you do, that it's like, I'll never get there. Like, I believe you're there, but yeah, I'll never get there. So being able to offer that experience and being that living proof in front of another addict or alcoholic, like, I'm not just telling you, like, this is what my life is. And
How do you take care of you? How do you protect yourself in the middle of all this? Because even though you have achieved a lot, it has to be very emotional, not just sharing your story, but sometimes hearing things that may trigger you. How do you protect you? How do you take care of yourself?
So if you ask my husband, I do not do that enough. He is very mindful in his thinking and his movement and his behavior. He's very calm and peaceful. He handles things like Buddha. So he has to remind me, like, calm down. It's okay. Let's just lay down and watch a movie. Yes, you're free tonight, but why do you have to put something in there? Just stay home. And I have to be reminded of that because I'm very type A. I'm very driven. I'm ADHD. I'm not treated because I don't want to feel like I'm on meth. All these things. I have so much energy. But I do yoga at least once a week. I go to the gym. I've started journaling recently. I spend time with my friends. My dogs are a good source of that for me. I'll relax and watch Netflix with my husband. Spending time with him is good for my soul. So really just stuff like that, anything that feeds me. But I admittedly go way too much for other people and my job. And I do forget about me sometimes. And burnout is real in this field.
Definitely. What has recovery taught you about strength, patience, and grace?
So, strength, I've accomplished a lot of things. And what we're taught in AA and the Bible is I get strength through God. I could not get my sobriety until I hit my knees and cried out to God, and He threw my phone in my hand, and here I am. So, as far as the strength, I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me, right?
Yes.
And that's how I feel about it. When I'm struggling to make something happen and it just won't happen, that's not God's will. Something, right? So I've been through a lot. I've been through a lot of emotional pain. I've been through financial stressors. I've been through, family stressors, work stressors. I've accomplished a lot. I'm back in school. I've cleared my record. I've held jobs down the whole time I've been sober, which is amazing. I've been very productive as employees or as an employee and stuff like that. So just the strength, because again, early in my recovery, if you told me what my life was going to look like today, I'd be like, there's no way. No way. But as I proceeded, I was able to walk through fear about different things and just do it. Didn't always work out, but that's fine. So the strength, the grace, I have to remember where I came from. It talks about in one of our readings, what's it say? Forgive me of my trespasses as I forgive those who trespass against me. And for a long time, I just read that and said it. Then I thought about it one day and I'm like, as I forgive. Forgive. Don't just forgive me, as I forgive other people. So I have to remember that. And I don't always do that perfectly. I can still be judgmental about things. But I have to remember the condition I was in and the grace I was given in those meetings when I came in high. Just little things like that I would not want to be judged across the globe, across the whatever, for a couple of decisions that I made that were bad. I want to be able to grow. I want to be able to change and develop and become a better person without being tied to and anchored to all the things that I've done. So I have to be able to give the same to other people. What was the other one you said?
It was strength, patience, and grace.
Patience. So I have learned not to pray for patience.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So when I wake up in the morning, I ask God to help me stay in His will, to let me know when I'm out of the will, and to keep me from character defects. And patience is a character defect. And that's definitely something that I have to work on. And what I find in that is that I don't write out, say, help me with patience a lot, but I'll be in like the grocery line and it's super long, or somebody has got 15,000 items in the U scan. And I'll sit there for a minute and I'll be like, and I've heard a million times that when you get caught in traffic, when you have to wait, like there's a reason for that. And I'll joke about it. Like somebody would be like, "Oh my God, this line is so long," and I'd be like, "I feel like God's telling me I need to be still for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
I've been running all day long, and now I get to stand in line for 20 minutes, but I'm still. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
running around like I'm crazy." So the patience part is hard, especially with people trying to get sober,
Mm-hmm.
because I see potential. They do good for a little bit, or they have all these things in jeopardy and they just will not stop. And it's like, will you please? Like, part of me wishes that I could give away my sobriety so that they know what it's like, but I also know that that wouldn't work because I had to earn mine.
Mm-hmm.
Everything I went through, I don't regret my past.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, there's things that I wish I hadn't done, but where I am today, if I could change any part of my life, what if the thing that I changed was instrumental to the
To
change?
who you are today.
Yeah. Yeah.
If somebody's watching or listening to the show and they think that they have gone too far and that they have no return, what would you tell them?
Anything is possible. Don't sell yourself short. Your mind is going to tell you all kinds of things. Your addiction is going to tell you all kinds of things. I say my addiction is a living, breathing entity that lives between my ears, and
Mm-hmm.
because it will tell me something in my own voice.
Mm-hmm.
The only disease that tells you you don't have it.
Mm-hmm.
So I would just say, get around other people that have done it.
Mm-hmm.
Get
Mm-hmm.
into some support groups, listen to meetings online, Google stuff, YouTube stuff, do inspirational things, listen to affirmations. Start really little. Make little bitty tiny achievable goals. Little bitty tiny ones. Even if it's make your bed in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Even
Mm-hmm.
if it's make breakfast for yourself, even if it's to read a little devotional, whatever. Start small, and eventually small changes lead to bigger changes and bigger changes. And there are millions, literally millions of people around the world that thought the same thing at one.
Mm-hmm.
And the recovery community is gigantic.
Mm-hmm.
Just reach out. There's all kinds of resources online. There's all kinds of online meetings.
Yes.
Like, there's so many resources now. There's no excuse.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many.
Miss Lindsey, we thank you. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
We appreciate you for sharing your lowest moment
Mm-hmm.
and celebrating with you your recovery
Mm-hmm.
and sharing with other people. We often say, why am I going through this? Why?
For someone else.
For
Mm-hmm.
somebody else. So that you can be a walking, living, breathing testimony for somebody else. I was where you are. That's what we tell people. I've been there. I've been there. Okay. And the good thing about it is accountability partners are priceless. And that's the person that you got to trust in your worst moments.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They've seen the best, they've seen the worst, and someone that you just tell everything to.
I saw real quick. I saw a TikTok this morning that a pastor did, and he was talking about how society always says, "Don't judge. You're not supposed to judge. You're not supposed to judge." And he was like, "We're not supposed to judge the world, but when you become a follower of Christ, you are supposed to hold accountable."
Mm-hmm.
Accountability, yes.
Yeah, hold to the same regards and the principles of the Bible and the morals and values and all of that. And kind of tying into what you said, like, we have to hold each other accountable. We need to walk alongside us.
And Lindsey, your story reminds us that no one is too far gone. And healing doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be real. And we appreciate you. We applaud you.
We're very proud of you and everything you're doing.
Very proud of you. Very
That means
proud.
a lot considering you all have never met me.
There's some things that the spirit connects.
Yes.
And we can tell that you're real,
Yes.
that you're honest, and that you have really worked your recovery.
Mm-hmm.
And that's worth being proud of.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yes. Yes.
It still feels weird to hear that, even though I try to believe it. It still feels
I understand.
I get it.
I understand, but we mean it from the bottom of our heart.
Absolutely.
And I have tingled sitting here during this interview so many times. And I know that's the Holy Spirit confirming, bearing witness that this is where we're supposed to be. You're supposed to share your story.
And it was supposed to be today.
And it was supposed to be today instead of what? 2 weeks,
2 weeks ago?
It's okay.
We appreciate your patience, and God knows what He's doing. So if one person is inspired to get free from whatever is holding them captive, drugs, caffeine, even relationships, relationships can be a big old drug right there. Okay. And we just appreciate you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate
And
it.
we are so proud of you. Thank you so much for taking the time to share with us.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you. And we'll welcome to the Thrive family,
Yes.
and we'll hope to have you again.
Yes, ma'am.
Is this going to be on YouTube, you said?
Yes.
Yes, it will. Thanks for tuning in to Thrive by the Rising Muse. If you found hope or strength in this episode, please share it. You never know who might need it.
Remember to follow us on social media. We are at the Rising Muse on all platforms. Help us get to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. And remember, if you're experiencing a mental health crisis, please dial 988. However, if it's someone you love who's having a mental health crisis, please dial 911 or take them to the nearest emergency room.
And if you believe that you are in a domestic violence situation, and need help and need to reach out, please dial 800-799 7233. I'm sorry, let me say that again. 800-799-7233 or text 887-888. And please make sure you're in a safe place when you're reaching out for help.
We'll see you next week, but until then, stay safe, stay strong, and don't forget to thrive. Have a blessed day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.